Jabari Okoye was born with a cue in his hand, or so it seemed. From the moment he could walk, he was drawn to the snooker table in his uncle's modest Lagos home. The soft green felt, the polished wooden rails, the rhythmic clack of balls colliding. It was a symphony that called to him. By the age of 10, he was beating grown men in local tournaments. By 16, he was a national sensation. And by 25, he was a world champion, his name etched in the annals of snooker history. Jabari wasn't just talented. He was magnetic. With his chiseled jawline, deep brown eyes, and a smile that could disarm even the most stoic of opponents, he was the poster boy for the sport. Sponsors lined up to have him endorse their products, and fans flocked to see him play. He lived a life of luxury, traveling the world in his private jet, attending glamorous parties, and rubbing shoulders with celebrities. But beneath the glitz and glamour, there was a darkness, a reckless streak that threatened to undo everything he had built. It was a warm summer evening in Monte Carlo, and Jabari was in his element. He had just won the Monaco Masters, defeating his rival, Marcus the Viper Langley, in a thrilling final. The victory had earned him a hefty prize purse, but more importantly, it had solidified his status as the best snooker player in the world. As he celebrated at a private casino, surrounded by friends and admirers, he felt invincible. That's when he met Viktor Kovalenko. Viktor was a Russian oligarch with a penchant for high-stakes gambling. He was a large man, with a booming laugh and a reputation for being both generous and ruthless. He had been watching Jabari all evening, studying him like a predator, sizing up its prey. When he finally approached, it was with a proposition that would change Jabari's life forever. "I hear you're a man who likes a challenge," Viktor said, his accent thick, but his English flawless. "How about a game of snooker? Just you and me. Well, let's make it interesting." Jabari, ever the competitor, was intrigued. "What did you have in mind?" Viktor smiled, a slow, predatory grin. "I'll wager my yacht, the Black Swan. She's worth about 50 million. And you can wager that pretty little jet of yours." There was a collective gasp from the onlookers. Jabari's private jet was his pride and joy, a symbol of his success. It was a Gulfstream G650, customized to his exact specifications, and worth every penny of its $65 million price tag. To lose it would be unthinkable, but Jabari was never one to back down from a challenge. "You're on," he said, extending his hand. The game was set for the following evening, in a private room at the casino. The table was pristine, the lights perfectly positioned, and the air thick with anticipation. Jabari arrived early, dressed in his signature tailored suit, his cue case in hand. Viktor was already there, leaning casually against the table, a cigar dangling from his lips. "Ready to lose your jet?" Viktor teased, blowing a cloud of smoke into the air. Jabari smirked. "We'll see about that." The rules were simple. A best of 19 frames match, with each frame worth 1 point. The first to reach 10 points would win. The stakes were high, but Jabari was confident. He had faced tougher opponents on the professional circuit, and he had always come out on top. The game began, and it quickly became clear that Viktor was no amateur. He played with a precision and strategy that belied his casual demeanor. He was a master of the psychological game, using subtle gestures and comments to get under Jabari's skin. But Jabari was no slouch either. He countered Viktor's moves with his own, sinking balls with a grace and accuracy that left the onlookers in awe. The match was a roller coaster, with both players trading frames back and forth. By the halfway point, the score was tied at 5-5. The tension in the room was palpable, and even Jabari, usually so composed, was feeling the pressure. As the match progressed, Jabari began to notice something strange. Viktor's shots were becoming increasingly erratic, yet he was still managing to win frames. It was as if he was toying with Jabari, drawing out the game for his own amusement. Jabari's frustration grew, and with it, his mistakes. By the 15th frame, Viktor was leading 8-7. Jabari knew he had to dig deep if he was going to turn things around. He took a deep breath, cleared his mind, and focused on the table. He won the next 2 frames, bringing the score to 9-8 in his favor. He was 1 frame away from victory. But Viktor wasn't done yet. He won the 18th frame, tying the score at 9-9. It all came down to the final frame. The final frame was a battle of wills. Both players were exhausted, their nerves frayed, but neither was willing to give an inch. The frame dragged on, with both players missing shots they would normally make with ease. The tension in the room was unbearable. Finally, it came down to the final few balls. Jabari had a clear shot at the black ball, which would win him the frame and the match. He lined up the shot, took a deep breath, and struck the cue ball. It rolled smoothly across the table, hitting the black ball dead center. The ball began to move toward the pocket, and for a moment, it looked like Jabari had won. But then, inexplicably, the ball veered off course, missing the pocket by a fraction of an inch. There was a collective gasp from the onlookers. Jabari stared in disbelief, his heart sinking. Viktor stepped up to the table, a triumphant smile on his face. He lined up his shot, and with a steady hand, sank the black ball, winning the frame and the match. Jabari was in shock. He had lost, not just the match, but his jet. His pride and joy, the symbol of his success, was now the property of Viktor Kovalenko. He felt a wave of nausea wash over him, and for a moment, he thought he might be sick. Viktor, meanwhile, was ecstatic. He clapped Jabari on the back a little too hard and said, "Better luck next time, my friend. But for now, I believe that jet is mine." Jabari forced a smile, though it felt more like a grimace. "Congratulations," he said, his voice tight. "You played well." Viktor laughed, a deep, booming sound that echoed through the room. "I always do. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a jet to claim." As Viktor walked away, surrounded by his entourage, Jabari was left alone with his thoughts. He felt a mix of emotions, anger, frustration, shame. How could he have been so reckless? How could he have gambled away something so valuable? But deep down, he knew the answer. It was the same thing that had driven him to become the best snooker player in the world. His insatiable need for challenge, for risk, for the thrill of the game. And now, that same drive had cost him dearly. In the days that followed, Jabari struggled to come to terms with what had happened. He avoided the media, knowing that they would be relentless in their pursuit of the story. He retreated to his home in the English countryside, where he could be alone with his thoughts. But solitude didn't bring peace. Instead, it brought clarity. Jabari realized that he had been living on the edge for too long, taking risks that no sane person would take. He had become complacent, arrogant even, believing that he was untouchable. But the loss of his jet was a wake-up call, a reminder that no matter how talented or successful he was still human. Determined to turn his life around, Jabari threw himself back into his training. He spent hours every day at the snooker table, honing his skills, pushing himself to be better than ever. He cut back on the parties, the gambling, the reckless behavior. He focused on his game and on rebuilding his reputation. It wasn't easy. There were times when he wanted to give up, to go back to his old ways. But he kept going, driven by a newfound sense of purpose. He wanted to prove to himself and to the world that he was more than just a gambler, more than just a pretty face. He was a champion, and he wasn't done yet. A year after the fateful game in Monte Carlo, Jabari returned to the professional circuit. He was a changed man, more focused, more disciplined, more determined. He played with a fire that had been missing before, a hunger that drove him to new heights. He won tournament after tournament, his name once again at the top of the rankings. But it wasn't just about the wins. It was about the journey, the growth, the redemption. Jabari had faced his demons, and he had come out stronger on the other side. And then there was Viktor. The two men crossed paths again at the World Snooker Championship. Viktor, true to form, had a new wager in mind. But this time, Jabari wasn't interested. He had learned his lesson, and he wasn't about to repeat his mistakes. "I'm not here to gamble," Jabari said, his voice firm. "I'm here to play snooker." Viktor laughed, but there was a hint of respect in his eyes. "Fair enough, my friend. Let's see what you've got." The match was intense, a battle of skill and strategy. But this time, Jabari was in control. He played with a precision and focus that left Viktor struggling to keep up. In the end, Jabari emerged victorious, winning the match and the championship. As he lifted the trophy, Jabari felt a sense of satisfaction that went beyond the win. He had proven to himself and to the world that he was more than just a gambler. He was a true champion, a man who had faced his demons and come out on top. And as for the jet, well, let's just say that Jabari had learned to fly without it. Jabari Okoye's story is one of triumph and redemption, a reminder that even the brightest stars can fall, but they can also rise again. He continues to play snooker, his passion undimmed, his focus unwavering. And while he may no longer have a private jet, he has something far more valuable: the knowledge that he is stronger than his mistakes, and that true success is not measured in material wealth, but in the strength of one's character. As for Viktor Kovalenko, he remains a fixture in the world of high-stakes gambling, always on the lookout for his next challenge. But he knows better than to underestimate Jabari Okoye. After all, he's seen firsthand what the man is capable of. And so, the legend of Jabari Okoye lives on, a tale of talent, temptation, and triumph. A story of a man who gambled with his jet and won back his soul. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the incredible world of snooker players and stories. If you're as passionate about the game as we are, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a shot. Do you have a favorite snooker legend or story you want to see featured? Drop it in the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep hustling, keep aiming, and remember, on the green felt, every game has the power to make you a legend.